What's up? What's up, guys? I'll give it another minute here for the slackers, and then we'll kick things off.
Sounds good. Thanks for putting this on. I'm excited.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. All right, guys, let's kick it off. So tonight's session is going to be pretty informal. I've got about a 20-minute presentation prepared all about creative finance that I'm going to share with you guys. If you guys can enter in the chat any questions that you have or write them down, and we'll get to them at the end. And then the whole rest of the session is just any questions, comments, help you guys need. I just want to add as much value as possible. So we'll just have a live Q&A. I know there's going to be quite a large delta between experience levels here, which is great. And it's good that this is somewhat small right now, so we can get some individual attention. So any questions from anybody before I kick things off here? Sweet. All right. Let me get this going. Can you guys see my screen here?
Yes.
Yeah, I can see it, right?
Sweet. All right, guys. So today, this is all about, is it the best time in history to buy creative finance deals? I think you know the answer. Yes. Yes, it is. So whether you've never done a creative finance deal before in real estate, or you're looking to hire a team to do 10 of these a month or more, I've got you covered here. A little bit of background about me. My wife and I moved to London in May. So I was living and working full-time in San Diego as an engineer, and I was investing in real estate. And I'll be quick on this because nobody really cares about my background. We'll get into the meat and potatoes. But long story short, I was doing real estate as a means of financial freedom to be able to quit my job, to live the life that I really wanted. And I set up everything virtual from the start because I love travel so much, and I wanted to be able to live anywhere in the world. So this is my wife and our 1-year-old daughter. We've got just above 40 rental doors. We do 8 to 12 deals a month, wholesale, fix and flip, construction, Airbnb, rentals, and coaching are all the businesses that we currently operate right now. And again, my whole thing was like, how the heck do I get out of a corporate job that I hate the most? And right now, I think creative finance is the quickest way to that, and I'll explain why here in a second. But our primary market right now is Boise, Idaho. We service the whole state of Idaho. Why Idaho? Honestly, my college roommate was just born and raised there, and when I was living in San Diego, I was like, I can't afford shit here in San Diego, so I need to go buy somewhere cheaper to get some cash flowing properties. So that's how it all got started. There's nothing like starting off with a bit of vulnerability in a good presentation, because a lot of times social media, right? Everything's hunky-dory, everything is great. This is one of my favorite memes because it's very accurate about this entrepreneurial journey that we all have and embark on, where we feel like we're in control, and then the next day we feel like we're not in control at all. And that's the fun part. And so when you guys are investing virtually, or setting up a business virtually, or doing anything virtually, it adds another element where you don't feel like you're in control. Are my employees taking advantage of me? How do I manage them? How do I maintain visibility? Are they just scrolling through Facebook all day? Right? The way to answer this is by adding structure and keeping score. So you have to have some element of either a CRM or a dialing system or a way to measure and track and be very clear upfront in setting expectations, what their targets are. Or if it's just you got to be accountable for your own targets, and you got to understand what are the lead measures that produce the results, right? We're not going to be focused on resulting where did I get a contract, did I get a deal? No, it's did I make my number of dials today? Did I hit the number of leads I needed to hit? Did my virtual assistant do the task as I asked them, right? And it's all about keeping score. And there's nothing wrong with keeping score publicly to keep people accountable, right? It's all about having a scoreboard so people are competitive and you're building the right culture in your team. So if you've got a small team, I would highly recommend Slack already. Or you can start with WhatsApp. That's fine too if you have some international people on the team. And then everything we operate is with EOS from the book Traction. So I don't know if you guys are familiar with that. But so first into the micro about bringing this full circle to creative finance and why this is the best time in history to build wealth through creative finance. Our market of Idaho was like the poster child for market appreciation. It went up by like almost 50% in the 2 to 2.5 years during COVID. Now it's leading the nation in price drops, and it's down 28% since peak pricing in May. So it's down almost 30% since May, which is crazy. That's a huge drop in property values. So big picture, if we went up 50% and then dropped 30%, does it really matter? No. But if you're flipping, it matters. So despite days on market being really high and it feeling more and more like a buyer's market, actually, where buyers have more leverage than sellers, inventory levels are still at just a month and a half, even with 28% price decline. So I know I'm throwing a lot of stuff at you guys, but big picture, and as we look into why this is all happening and why creative finance is a better strategy right now, it's important to understand the micro. We're not able to, we're in the know. Like most people on this call have at least some exposure to real estate, or some of you might be real estate investors yourselves. We have a pulse of what's going on in these markets, right? Our sellers that we're contacting, that we're trying to get deals from, they don't. They get their news from mainstream media, right? It can be 3 to 6 months before they even know what's going on. Some people that you call might think, I can get 100 offers if I list this weekend, just like my neighbor did that listed a year ago, right? So this is the challenge, is seller expectations are up here. Our expectations for what we can pay on a cash offer are here. The gap has never been wider. So that's why it's important to have multiple strategies in your tool belt other than just a cash offer. A cash offer can only get you so far. And specifically, like market specific, right? We have a wide variety of markets represented in this room. Primarily, if you're Denver West, you're seeing some amount of price declines. This is why. It's because with interest rates doubling in like 6 months' time or less, people's payments are just hitting an affordability ceiling, right? People just can't afford or qualify for the same size of house, same features of a house that they could 6 months ago. And so if most of our buyer pool are first-time home buyers and our average home price is around $400,000, most people can't just make another $600 a month. right? Most of us in this call are entrepreneurial, so we can figure out a way to side hustle to make some extra money and get it done. But most of our buyers cannot. Every time that I get in some kind of, are we going to have a housing crash or crystal ball conversation with people, I always show them this graph first because it's pretty shocking. This all the way to the bottom right is where we're at today with housing inventory. So look at where we peaked in the last housing crash and why this time is so much different. We are at all-time, right next to all-time record lows in housing inventory. We don't have a flood of homes on the market, and that's why prices are, yes, they're coming down because of affordability, but we're not seeing this wave of foreclosures, this wave of deals that's just, bank seized homes and nobody wants to buy anything, and it's not going to be like 08 and 09. So now in March, we're already seeing some stability in interest rates. A lot of markets are starting to actually pick up and heat up once again. But on a macro level, right, we started on the micro level with looking at Idaho. On the macro level, we're nowhere close to a national housing crash. And this is what makes all of us so bullish on housing as an investment. It's the scarcity factor. Not only that, in 2023, we are at a far cry below previous years based on new listings. So why is this happening? People that bought in the last couple of years on record low interest rates, they don't want to list their house and move to half the house for the same payment. Why would they do that? Right? People right now are only listing their home if they have to move. They have a big life change event, if they if they get a job somewhere, although a lot of people can work virtually now, so you don't have as much of that. This is what's causing inventory to remain low, is people just don't have any motivation to move. And this is a bit shocking, and this is why, bringing all this full circle, this is the best time to learn how to do creative finance, to quadruple down on creative finance, is because 7 out of every 10 mortgages right now are below 4%. And 3 out of every 10 mortgages are below 3%. Okay, that is astronomically different now that today an owner occupant can probably get somewhere around 6, right? Maybe high 5s with what's happened lately. So do you think that these people are going to be motivated to move anywhere? No, they're not. And they're not going to be for 28, 29, 30 years, right? This is the largest wealth creation opportunity that nobody's talking about, is taking over these mortgages, because this is insanely cheap debt out there for those that have the ability to take these over, and it's there for the taking, and it will be for many years to come. So if you guys learn how to do this now and implement these skills now, it's going to pay monumental dividends over the course of your wealth building journey here. What we're seeing as a team right now is, in 2022, we got kicked in the mouth when the market changed. Like, cash deals weren't working. Sellers were like, no, my neighbor's house just sold for this much. We couldn't get stuff under contract, or if we did, it was like we couldn't find a buyer for it because everything had just changed. So on the wholesaling side of things, creative finance saved our bacon. So whether we're keeping these, or we're assigning these, or wholesaling these, or we're flipping these, whatever, in Q3 and Q4 of last year, 75% of our deal flow was creative finance. Even Q1 of this year, over half of our deal flow is still creative finance. And we're getting close to COVID type numbers on our deal sizes in a declining market. Okay. Why? Because we have deals like these. Zillow price $375. We sent it out at $435. That's a $60,000 asking price over market value. Okay. Still made a $25,000 assignment fee from an investor because it's got a 2.875 interest rate. in first position. In second position, it's got a 0% interest rate that we structured. It's got a crap load of principal pay down every month. So an investor's like, I don't care that I'm overpaying for this property. I'm going to cash flow day one because it's got a mother-in-law suite in the back. It doesn't need that much work. I'm going to cash flow day one. And then when things turn around in the market and it starts appreciating again, I've got this incredible like net 1.4 interest rate that I'm going to ride for 28 years. So people will pay over market value if we just structure the deal right. And I know this is a bit complex, and we can dumb it down and simplify it, how to do the deal structure like this and what type of seller to cater to. But that's the gist of it, right? Is we're making a deal out of nothing. The cash price we would have been able to pay for this to assign it to make a wholesale profit, we would have offered like 225, 250, maybe. Okay. Audantic is one of our main data list providers. There's a couple other good ones out there like 80/20, REI. They're quite a bit expensive. So if you don't have the budget for it, you can still use your list source, your PropStream. You can use Zillow. You can go on Craigslist to set up your, this is a good one for you guys, your garage sale list. Nobody knows or hits the garage sale list. You set up a save search in Craigslist about garage sales and hit them up. But Audantic provided, we do a routine data analysis with them, and not all price points are created equal. So what we changed in all of our marketing was to hyper focus on median price point and below homes, because that product is still moving. It's not as affected by people's monthly payments. It's still an affordable price range for people to get into. So that's what this red line is here in Boise. That's a $200K price point, which almost doesn't exist really. But it's got a drastic days on market difference between 400, 500, 600 and up price point in what's moving. So when we changed all this and we started getting cheaper stuff, dinkier stuff under contract, buyers really wanted it. Makes sense. They can cash flow. And then this sounds really simple, right? But getting back to basics and training, role playing, like when the market's going good and you're looking at your team and you're having honest assessments with yourself and your team on their caliber of sales skills, your order takers in an upward market, you're always right. And we were no different. We got lazy. We didn't practice our craft. So we had to get better there, and we had to triple down on sales. Sales is what gets revenue coming in the door. Sales is what separates you from the pack in times of turmoil and in times of uncertainty in these markets. If you guys have a team and you're thinking about, how do I insert this into my business? What we found is just making one person your creative finance expert. So we call this person our head of underwriting. So if that's you, if that's another acquisitions person, it's much easier to direct those calls and conversations to one person than to try to have your whole team do it, because it'll be a gigantic mess. And then depending on what your CRM is, we just upgraded to Salesforce, and it's a beast of a product, but there's a lot of failed listings out there right now. That is a great list to hit. You can get that from a local realtor that can pull that for you for free, or anything that's been on the market over 90 or 120 days right now, depending on your market. Those are prime candidates for creative deals. Why do buyers go crazy for creative deals? Because it's the safest thing in the market right now. They've got The only known right now with all this, SVB stuff, with the banks collapsing, with inflation at record highs, with they going to continue to raise rates? Are they not? The only safe thing in the game right now is cash flow and a fixed interest rate, right? Those are my guarantees. So buyers are looking at this and they're like, I will overpay for certainty. I'll overpay for certainty. So if we don't keep these and we're assigning these, or we're closing on them and then financing them to a wrap buyer that we can qualify, right? People have very limited opportunities to buy this product, okay? 1 out of every 3 Americans cannot qualify for a mortgage. So if you're closing on these and then you're seller financing it to a wrap buyer on the back end, these people have very limited opportunities to get in the game. Some of them are flush with cash. They can't qualify for a conventional mortgage, but maybe they own a landscaping business. Maybe they, we sold a property last week to a gal that did website design, right? Like, why can't she qualify for a mortgage? Because there's all these dumb hoops to jump through and all this red tape, right? She's flush with cash. Who cares? 1031 money, there's still a lot of that out there right now. Ironically, most of our creative finance buyers come from Craigslist. I don't know why. It's kind of weird. But if you guys are looking from the buyer end of like, how do I either find a wrap buyer, or how do I find an investor to assign a deal to and make a wholesale fee on, list some dummy properties as creative finance deals. And this is, I just wanted to share a screenshot with you guys of how we advertise it when we send it out. But have a couple dummy ones of these posted, like of a rental property or something that you're not even looking to sell, just so that you can start getting traffic of people reaching out, get their name, get their contact info, start building your buyers list that way. So always have these Craigslist ones running in different areas. You'll get a consistent free flow of buyers that you can use. They don't even have to be nice, like this property, right? Like, I think this one we made a $45K assignment fee on. It's just in a gray area. It's not remodeled at all. But it's all about how to structure the deal. Everything is in structuring the deal. So one step back in who is most likely to do a creative finance deal, it's your subject twos. So for everyone that doesn't know what a subject to is, we're just taking over the seller's payment. Okay, so we get the property, we get the deed, everything's a regular transaction, it goes through the title company. Just the mortgage is staying in the seller's name, and we're just making payments on that mortgage. Okay, that's it. It's not any more complicated than that. But don't be surprised with people that you talk to or realtors. A lot of them have never heard of it, although it's getting better slowly. You'll get a lot of people that say you can't do that, you can't do this, that's illegal in our state. None of it's true, okay? For these sub-twos foreclosures, and any sellers with financial pain are going to be your great candidates for those people to go after. Again, I mentioned failed listings. And then the big one right now is analytical type sellers that are stuck on a number. They just want their number. They just want $500,000 for the property. They don't care how they get it. There's a lot of people out there like that are just stubborn about a number. Those are going to be the ones where you typically have your what's known as piggyback second positions. Okay, so I'm going to sub to the first position. I'm going to make payments to their underlying mortgage, and then maybe there's $100K left over. So just for round numbers, let's say somebody owes $400K on a property. They want $500K for it. Okay, I'm going to take over the payments on that $400K note. and now there's $100,000 left in seller's equity, I'm just going to make $200 a month on that 100K at 0% interest. A lot of people will go for it. I know it sounds insane, but people will go for it if you can hit their number, because a cash offer for that person is like 410. So never in history has there been this big of a delta between, again, what we can offer on cash and what we can offer on terms. And that's why, if you know how to exhaust this correctly through your own prospecting, through your own sales process and your team's sales process, you're going to have wild success, because what people get on a terms offer net right now is so much higher than cash. It's not like 20 or 30 grand. It's like 50, 100 more. Okay. That's a size. That's something people think twice about, even if they got to wait 20 years to get it. And then your seller finances, this is if the property is just free and clear, there's no mortgage. You're tired landlords. So anyone that's an older demographic, absentee owners, people that live out of state, when times were good, they could put up with a lot of bullshit from tenants, and it was okay because the prices of homes and everything was still appreciating. Their balance sheets were looking great. Homes are going up in price. The second that that's not the case, or there's any kind of pressure or pain, they want out. They just want mailbox money. They're over it. If you guys aren't hitting any kind of mobile home with land list, it has to have land. Mobile home with land list. It's a gold mine. It's a gold mine. Nobody hits it. And those are people that typically have to buy and sell on some kind of creative finance, because a lot of them are not on foundations and they're not financeable. But they make excellent low down payment, 0% interest or very low interest rate cash flowing machines. So don't be afraid of those, especially in good areas. And you can wholesale those for a premium too. And then ironically, the bigger the deal, the more open people are to creative finance. So apartments, multifamily, land plays. We just locked up a multifamily deal last week where the guy had a 3.3% assumable loan on his first position. And then we're doing a seller carry back in second position at 3%, just so he can hit his number. Okay, so the bigger the deal, the more open people are to this kind of thing. And that's the beauty in developing this skill. All right, I've got about 5 more minutes here, and then we'll open it up to Q&A. This slide I really want to spend a few minutes on, because in your sales process, creative finance is tricky. It's tricky. You get more objections from sellers. Most of them have never heard of it. You know, they heard from their cousin that, you know, bad things happen when you seller finance, or you sub to, or the due on sale clause gets called, all these things, right? So you have to be crystal clear in defining your sales process first and foremost. It's pivotal that you start with a price anchor on every seller. You hit them with a cash offer. Okay. So, and when I mean cash offer, meaning I'm going to fully exhaust cash as an option first. If I don't do that and I just jump right into terms, they're not going to see the value in it. Okay. They're not going to understand the delta. They're not going to understand that, hey, what I could get for a cash offer right now is significantly less than terms. It's not just a little bit. Okay. If you don't do that, you or your sales team are going to find yourself always jumping right into the terms option and skipping all pain, all motivation. You're not going to be qualifying your leads. Every single thing that comes in is going to become a lead, and you're going to have 500 leads to follow up with a day because you're not qualifying them properly. Every single time you're going to say, or your team's going to say, well, if I could just pay you more over time, if I could just pay you more than anyone else, then it's a deal. Don't do that. Don't do that. They still have to have pain. They still have to have motivation. They still have to have a reason to sell for you to make this a deal. So don't fall in that trap of, I'm just not going to qualify at all. So that's being clear on your sales process. For us, it's a price anchor, the cash option. Once we fully exhaust that, we go into terms. Once we fully exhaust that, then we go into innovation, which is, some of you may or may not have heard of that, but it's a little bit of a lesser known strategy that is more or less listing a wholesale on the MLS. It's not exactly the same, but that's more or less what it is. Don't hold me to that, okay? For us as investors, right, the low down payment, the thing we care about most out of the price, the monthly payment, the interest rate, and the down payment is that down payment. We want the lowest cash entry fee into the deal possible. So how do we do that? We ask the seller something like, hey, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, so the great part about this is we can design this deal however you want to see it. But in order for me to do that and make sure that it's a win-win for both of us, what's most important to you? Is it the price? Is it the monthly payment? Is it the down payment? Do not bring up interest rate. Do not bring up length of the term. Why? Most of the time, they don't care about it. If you bring it up, it's just another objection for them to latch onto. Probably 7 out of 10 sellers are not going to care about interest rate or balloons of any kind. The 3 out of 10 that do, you just have to explain to them, hey, there's a consequence to that. In order for us to hit your 4% interest or do a 15-year balloon, it's going to have a direct correlation with price. And I know you said that price is the most important thing to you. So can you help me understand how we can make this a win-win? Okay. We can do more extensive role playing, guys, and I can help you or your teams with that specific pitching, things to say. I'm happy to do that. The title company is absolutely your advocate. It's really funny because we've had 2 or 3 title companies that we've done a few creative finance deals with, and then all of a sudden they're like, oh, we don't do these anymore. What do you mean you don't do these anymore? You just did them. They don't give a good reason. And the reason is they're just not straightforward to them. They require more work, and you just got a lazy title agent. That's all it is. So don't listen to any title company or if you're in a closing attorney state that says that they can't do these, because they can. You just got to find the right person, and it's difficult to find the right person in a lot of markets, but you will. Where people trip up a lot of times, if your pitching terms is going too deep into the conversation, into the first conversation on terms, it's a confused mind says no. A confused mind says no. So if we're going to go through the deal structure in depth, it's got to be on your 3rd, 4th, 5th touch. There's already got to be trust and rapport there in order for you to be able to convey this properly, so that they don't just tell you that you're full of shit. We do in-person appointments in Idaho, but I started off virtually over the phone. So what you have to understand is if you're doing this over the phone, it'll work. It'll just convert less than being in person. Why? It's the same thing on the cash deal side. If you're in person, you're going to get your conversion rate is going to be higher, and your deal sizes are going to be bigger too, just because I think primarily the main reason is we're dealing with an older demographic, usually, of people that are in distress, and they like to do business belly to belly. And another big mistake here, which ask me how I know, because I did this, don't try to train your entire team on this at once. It's a big mistake. Appoint one person or yourself as the creative finance expert or head of underwriting, and route all those closing calls, all those appointments, all those conversations to you to start, and then you can slowly introduce over the months to come. If you try to do it all at once with everybody, then you're going to fall into that trap of well, if I can just pay more than anybody else, let's make a deal. And you're not going to qualify your leads. You're going to have a mountain of leads that you'll never be able to get through, and it's going to become a complete nightmare for you. And then the coolest part about this is it really gives you so much more depth and width, right? So we can negotiate 5% down at 4% interest to develop 10 acres of new homes with a seller subordination to my construction loan. You can make $250,000 wrapping a dinky mobile home on 1/3 of an acre that nobody else wanted. You can, my personal favorite and something we hyper focus and hyper target, if you've got any high density zoning in your areas, that's like the hip gentrifying area around, and there's mobile homes, that is a gold mine. That is a gold mine. Our favorite deal that we did last year was 0 down, 0% interest, mobile home on a lot that nobody wanted. It looked like crap. The developer next door had already bulldozed the lots, and I just partnered with him, and now we're building townhomes together. So that was a $0 in deal. All it cost me was my time. So there's levels to this skill set that are just, there's no ceiling to this, is the point. Okay, so it doesn't just stop with wholesaling. Right now you can get some pretty crazy terms because of what's happened in the market. You can get longer due diligence periods. You can minimize your risk, and you can give yourselves longer runway with these deals. It's not uncommon for us, if we're looking at a development deal, to ask for 6-8 months of due diligence, even a year sometimes. Without, that's 6 months without a penny going hard in earnest money. So that's just kind of the state of affairs of where we're at right now. Material and labor costs are finally starting to go down. So despite, if you're hearing, oh, labor shortages and material shortages and all this stuff, that's coming to an end. At least in Boise, we're seeing that to start decline pretty rapidly here. And lumber, of course, has taken a big spill, which helps on build costs. So it's going to take a little bit more time for things to normalize, for build costs to come down, but there's going to be some great opportunities out there for this stuff. So I'm going to open it up now for Q&A. If you get value today, my only ask is just film yourself on like a 10 to 30 second video saying what you liked, and just tag me on Instagram. And if you know of anybody that would get value out of doing this on a regular basis, just spread the word. I'm happy to help and add value to you guys. Who's got questions?
I do.
Go for it.
Thanks a lot for everything. I got my team here, and we all are, we're on mute, but hollering in the background, saying, pumping each other up. So
Nice.
We're excited for this stuff. One thing I wanted to ask you, so, we are just, we do all wholesale and novation, and we're starting to get more into these different product types. From what you're seeing, what type of creative finance deal is the most typical? Is it seller finance? Is it subject twos? Like, because right now we just had a little training session on seller finance. Do you think that's a good starting point? That's actually probably 2 questions. So
I think the barrier to entry, in terms of like just deal structure, and in terms of do people understand it and does it make sense, is much easier with seller finance. So yes. Yeah.
And our seller finance, is that the most common product? So you're saying seller finance is the most common product you're seeing in the creative finance realm?
Yeah, I would say it's probably 2 to 3 times more likely than sub twos. There's just less people that know of sub twos and how to do it.
Got it.
Yeah.
And then on your seller finance, like, our acquisition guys and myself, like, what type of terms are you leading with in your first pitch for creative finance? Because it had zeros across the board, or do you not even do it on the first call?
Yep, so we're price anchoring and we're completely exhausting cash as an option, meaning, okay, so I guess, you know, as an investor, we have to be able to make a profit. I mean, I guess if you're saying, you know, something in that 200 to 210 range, I mean, if that wouldn't even work for you, what are you going to do? Right. And if the answer to that question is something other than, oh, I'll just keep it another 5 to 10 years because I don't have any real reason to sell, then I'm going to ask them and more questions to decipher what are they trying to accomplish. Right. And then it's, so what's most important to you? Price, monthly payment, down payment. I'm not bringing up interest rate. I'm not bringing up length of term ever.
Got it. Okay, and then they say price, then you're kind of running through and pitching it at that point?
Yes. Yep. Yep. So I'm going to use a lot of what if statements. Hey, so, okay, you said price is the most important thing to you. So if we're able to come up to your number, would you be able to work with us on the other terms?
Okay.
And then you'll have to use a lot of what if statements. Okay, so what if the price you wanted was 600? So what if we could do that? I mean, could you work with us on the down payment? Because as an investor, that would be most important to us to make this a win-win. Oh yeah, sure. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I kind of need this much. Oh, okay. So, I mean, is price really the most important thing to you then, or is it down payment? And I'm going to throw everything back to them to get them to, because this is going to be a new concept to them. And this is why I was saying, don't do this on the first call. Okay. They're going to, as you're asking them questions, their mind is going to be churning and they're going to be thinking about this live, about like, I've never heard of this before, or I've never thought about this before. You're asking me these questions and I'm trying to process what might work. Okay. And you'll have to sense that if, depending on their motivation level, if we need to park and say, okay, perfect. How about you talk to your wife tonight? And tomorrow you can get back to me on the terms that would work for you and we can go from there. Perfect. End the call. Don't try to close it in that first or second call.
Thank you.
The last thing I'll say to that before I'll get to Justin's question is, it's funny because a lot of times when you're just providing another option like this to the sellers, you'll get a lot of people that come back to you and want the cash offer just because you gave them more options. They like forget about the creative finance thing and they're like, well, we just like you. Well, yeah, they like you because you gave them more options than the other investor did. That's the truth. All right, Justin, what you got?
All right, I got kind of a slug of questions. I'll just ask one or two to start, and then we'll come back to me if there's more time. First
Fire
one
away.
here. So seller financing with an existing mortgage, they don't want to do sub 2. Are you doing that on a land contract or contract for deed? Is that how you're setting those up?
And what would be the reason that they don't want to do that?
So there's could be two. One is they maybe the explanation of sub 2, they're having a hard time grasping it, or the sub 2 part of it is confusing them. So because I'm working on one right now that's more like a short-term rental play, where I explained them the seller, they grasp seller finance right away, but they do have like a small mortgage. I shouldn't say small, about 50% still the mortgage. So on that one, instead of trying to do sub 2 and moving it into my name, i.e. have the title, but they have the mortgage, the thought was to do land contract, if you will, and they keep it I can still set up like a note servicing company to pay direct. Um, I was just trying to see what you're doing on those types of scenarios.
Yeah, the only downside to that is then you don't get depreciation because the deed doesn't transfer till it's paid, right? So,
Right.
but if that's the way to get the deal done, then yeah. But sometimes, a lot of times there's a way around that. It just, every once in a while though, you do get a prickly seller that's like, I want it structured this way, or maybe they're more savvy, but I wouldn't shy away from it.
Got it. Next one here is, you explained that large multifamily deal. I'm doing one right now, $1 million. It's a lease with the option to purchase. When I exercise the option to purchase, I'm doing a sub 2. So this is in Iowa, and they do some assumables, but I didn't want to even start talking about assumable, because if you start doing that, my mind was, if I start doing that, they say no, or I don't qualify, then that, opens up them searching for sub 2 later. So my thought was, why did you do assume versus sub 2?
Why did we do assume versus sub 2? The guy didn't want the debt, and it was a large amount of debt. And so for those of you that don't know, typically within 6 months, you can wipe off like 75% of someone's DTI on a sub 2. And then after like a year or 2 years, depends, but you can get the full amount of debt cleared from their name. This seller just, he was trying to qualify for a construction loan, and so he just couldn't have the debt in his name. So yeah.
Got it. Okay. So it's kind of, you tried to do sub 2, and then the fallback is then assuming it.
Yeah.
Got it.
Yeah.
Okay. I guess if you didn't work to assume it, then you wholesale it to somebody else.
Yes. Yeah. Why not?
Right.
A lot of times with those assumable loans though, it's a one-shot deal. So it can only be assumed once, and then of course you can sub to it after that. But it can get a little tricky with trying to wholesale it if you're not the person that may be buying it, and then you want to wait until you have that buyer to start that process, and it can be risky. Like if they don't qualify, then all of a sudden so yeah.
Got it. One more question, and then I'll
Go for
hop off. The third one here is, I like your idea of, you basically have a phantom ad. It's a fake property. You're getting leads in. And my thought was that, sometimes I'm negotiating as if I'm going to buy it. But if I know somebody who I know their buy box, now I can negotiate A deal, and B, probably more spread. Do you have an intake form? So I'm assuming you put on Craigslist, and then is it like a Google sheet, and then it drops in their buy box? Is that what you're doing?
No. So on Craigslist, I'm sure there's a way to integrate it. Right now, we just get replies over email on Craigslist, and someone's got to go in the email and reply back. And then, sometimes they're spam, and sometimes you got to hit them up or ask for their number or whatever. But the biggest thing with qualifying them, are you talking about wrap buyers or just any buyers?
Any buyers.
Okay. So the wrap buyers can get a little tricky because you want to be Dodd-Frank compliant, meaning, you have to abide by some rules that were created in the 08-09 financial crisis to make sure that they're qualified. But on a baseline level, you want to make sure that they're just bringing up enough income on a monthly basis. So you're asking for bank accounts, you're asking for monthly, you're asking for pay stubs, you're asking for screenshots of what their assets are, right? You're kind of more or less acting as a loan underwriter. That's for the wrap buyers. For the regular buyers, yeah, it's no, you're not asking for that stuff. You're just asking for proof of funds.
What would be, I guess I'm just, what would be the difference between the two? So the wrap buyer, obviously they're going to live in it. The other one is as an investment. That's the difference.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so you're doing that in-house versus paying a third party to underwrite.
You can do both. But what is their criteria for qualification? I think you just have to be on the same page there. Like, if you don't want the liability on you, that's a much safer route to go, is to have somebody else underwrite it. Just be crystal clear on like what kind of buyer are we looking for, and is it realistic, and does the deal make sense? Because some of them might say, oh, you need to make 3x income to even qualify for this, and the demographic you're looking for might not be able to hit that. So you just have to find the right medium there, and also depending on your state and regulations. So
Got
I
it.
know
Thank you.
that's a tricky one to answer. I wasn't trying to beat around it.
Oh, I know one other guy, Eric Sage, he was saying that he just is like, I don't want to do that. He sends it to like a third party.
Yeah, that's a great way to do it. We've never done that. We've always done it in-house, but I don't see any reason not to do that. All right, Brennan. Shoot, man.
Hey, yeah, so my question was regarding the assignment of
Yep.
the sub 2 or seller finance deal. It's a little different than a normal wholesale deal where they're kind of done with the property at that point. There's still that relationship with the end buyer just from receiving the payment. Are you doing anything to like disclose like, hey, I'm not the end buyer here? Because I wholesaled a sub 2 before, but I actually was like meeting with the seller with the person that I assigned it to. So it was more of like a really clear thing that was going on. Have you had that come up before, or do you address that at all?
Yeah, if you're assigning sub 2s, it's just got to be someone that you have vetted significantly and that you trust, and preferably someone that you've done deals with before, that you know they're going to be using it as a rental, and the renters are going to be making that payment, right? So that's on the upfront work, right? And then what we're telling the seller is absolutely, hey, we don't buy all these, but we have hundreds of other investor partners and funding partners that we work with. So depending on what our plate is looking like at any given month, then we'll see which ones we actually want to buy or which ones we work with those investor partners on. So nothing changes for you though. And it's important for them to understand that nothing changes for you in the terms of the deal. But you just have to make sure that if you're doing that, that who you're doing it with is reputable.
Okay. And then I did have just one more. So if they say there, a lot of times the down payment thing is a big sticking point because, you know, sometimes that kills the deal, but is there a certain return on investment that you're looking for in order to assign that? Like, you know, say someone's going to put 20K down, the cash flow is going to be X return. What's your judgment on whether it's a deal or not with a down payment?
Sure. Can you guys still see my screen or no?
I can see it.
Okay. For some reason I can't. Okay. So this is how we send it out.
Oh yeah.
So, and I can send you this text verbatim or a screenshot of this, but we're fully disclosing this is our down payment in the underlying contract. And this is what we want your total cash to close to be. The 15K down payment plus whatever assignment fee you're willing to pay plus closing costs. Okay, so your total cash, your offer is going to be this total cash to close number.
Yeah.
So when we're sending it out, and we use InvestorLift for Dispo now not because I'm in love with it, but it does simplify things and save us a little bit of time on that end. But InvestorLift, you have a purchase price or an asking price, and then a buy now price. The buy now price is like instant acceptance, right? Like if you offer the buy now price, as soon as your earnest money is in and an assignment agreement signed, it's yours. There's no back and forth. There's no haggling. They don't have to compete with anybody. If they offer the asking price, then, you know, hey, well, we're gonna wait until the end of business on this day to look at all offers and accept them. As far as what we look to, like, how do we gauge those numbers on what we want for an assignment fee? That'll depend on condition. That'll depend on condition. So, like for this one, if it's move-in ready, but it's, you know, it's somewhat, it's not even clean would be a stretch on this one. It's not that great, right? But I think on this one, we asked like 39, so 40. Like, we don't want to ask, we want a lot of interest. It's kind of like listing a regular property, right? Like the lower we can have the down payment, the entry fee for our asking price as a wholesale, the more offers we're going to get, and we're going to be able to drive that price up. It's no different than on the market.
Yeah.
So lower is better. Like,
yeah,
a lot of people have 30 to 40K sitting in their bank account. Not a lot of people have 100 to 150K, right?
right.
So,
Awesome. That's helpful. Thank you.
all right, Fernando.
Hey Ryan, it's I'm the acquisition manager of Justin. I had a quick
Nice.
question. What would you say is the minimum difference between the seller finance payments and the incoming rent?
Going to be different for every buyer because some people self-manage. So as a general rule of thumb, like so I always look at things through the lens of like, would I want this property? Because a lot of these we keep, like we don't wholesale a lot of these or all of these, we keep quite a few. And so if I'm always looking at it through a lens of like, if after my property manager fees, repairs, vacancy, maintenance, you know, I'm able to cash flow a few $100 plus I have these great terms, I'm good with that. Okay. But that's really going to depend on your market as to what people want to see for cash flow. You know, if you're in the Midwest, or I know you guys are in Riverside, so things are competitive, right? And their prices are generally higher. Like, the big benefit with these deals is you can cash flow less and you can justify it because of all the principal pay down with these low interest rates. So like,
I see.
even if I'm breaking even, or I've even done deals before where I'll lose a couple $100 a month in cash flow, but I'm getting like $1,000 a month in principal pay down. So
Oh, okay.
right, like it's different per person, but I would say if I'm giving you a real general rule of thumb, if you can cash flow a couple $100 on these properties, like $200 or $300 after everything, plus you've got these good interest rates in Riverside, that's going to be a slamming deal.
Here we go. Thank you.
Jose,
Cool. What's going on, Ryan?
how are you?
Good, man. Question. So, like, how market dependent is this for you? I understand this is, you know, as wholesalers, this is an investor product, but like, at what point do you, if you even use it to qualify lead, do you kind of bring up the 1% rule? Like how market dependent is seller finance?
Market dependent meaning,
So we're predominantly in California, and that example you said right now for Riverside,
Yep.
you know, we're also here.
right on.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think if you're in a market that is in any kind of decline, it's going to work better, or has not even declined, but has softened. It's going to work better because people have expectations up here and the cash price is here. And so now how are we going to fill in the gap? So if you're in it, it really depends on what your market is doing, but it works everywhere. It works everywhere. So I would say if you guys are in Riverside, like, this is going to be a really good option. But you might have a few extra hoops to jump through doing this in California. But it's absolutely plausible.
Okay, cool. And I think one last question. So say that there's a 10K balance left on the loan. In this case, can you still have the buyer come in with, say, 30K? The 10K will go to the service of primary debt, and then the other 20K could be your assignment, right? So it doesn't have to be 100% free and clear. It could have a small loan balance, correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
Or you might find too, in California, like if someone owes 100 and they bring 150, like that's 150 is not a huge number for a lot of people in California, right? So yeah, that could, and you net a 50K assignment fee, that could totally work.
Okay. Cool. I appreciate it, Ryan.
Yeah, absolutely.
Hey, Ryan, we are seeing a lot of our seller finance deals with exactly who you laid out, units, tired landlords. Are you guys seeing any with like owner occupied units on seller finance?
Multifamily?
No, owner occupied, like, they live there, but they're, yeah, they live owner occupied, like they live there.
Yeah, for seller finance, those are going to be more rare. Those are going to be mostly your sub twos.
see.
Because if somebody's got a property free and clear and they live there, that like something major has to happen for them because they don't have a housing payment. So
Yeah.
if they
Yeah.
move somewhere, then they either have to find something that is the same cost, or like there has to be a benefit to them for doing that, and usually there's not.
Yeah, great point, that the payoff and the motivation with paid off, something substantial life has to occur. So.
Yeah. Cool, guys.
And if I could ask one more, like
Go for
I
it.
appreciate you talked about your pitch, exhaust cash, what happens if you don't sell, if there's motivation, what's most important to you, if we're able to do that, What's the cadence though in the number of meeting, like do you guys see like 4 appointments to 5 appointments? That's when it you get the contract? Like is there?
You mean touches? Like number
Yeah,
of calls?
that's great. Yeah, because I don't want my team thinking like, oh, for wholesale deals, like one shot kills. Like I don't think these are gonna be them, and I don't want us to try to do that. But like, how many touches does it typically take for seller finance, like to lock it up?
So if I were you in your process, anything that you can't get on the cash offer and you're about to throw to the wayside, that is the time to say, hey, well, I'm not even sure if this would work for you, but what if there was a way that I could get up closer to your number?
Okay.
And that's how you start the conversation. And then if they're open to that, then you can say something like, well, can you tell me more about your situation? Where are you moving? Like if they need a crap load of cash up front, like if they're like, oh, I want to do a 1031, they're not going to sell on terms. If they've got a bunch of credit card debt that they need to pay off, they're probably not going to sell on terms because they need to pay that off, right? If they're upsizing or they need cash to buy another property, they're probably not going to sell on terms. So those are all then disqualifiers. And then, but if they don't fit any of those, then I'm moving on in the process and I'm asking them a little bit more about their situation. And then I'm going to say, hey, okay, thank you for this information. Now let me go schedule a call with you with our head of underwriting, our creative finance expert, to see how we can structure this.
I see. Okay, and appointment number 2, that's when you're gonna actually pitch the terms that you have curated?
That's just when I'm just going to do the discovery of like, what's most important to you. We can
Oh,
structure it, right? Is it price? Is it monthly payment? What are you trying to accomplish here? And then they're going to have some objections. They're going to have some thoughts. I give them an action step to talk to their husband, their spouse. Okay, come back to me. Hey, tomorrow at 3:30 p.m. I got a free slot in my calendar here. I can fit you in between a couple other sellers' appointments, right? Adding that scarcity. Okay. And I think we can get something done as long as you promise, okay, you'll talk this over with your husband and you'll come up with the numbers that hypothetically, if that would even work for you, you'll come up with those numbers and we'll talk about it then.
nice.
Okay. And then in that call, I'm going to get more, I'm going to go into the what if. Hey, so, okay, so you want 600. What if we could, okay. So if we did that, okay, well, what if what if we could come all the way up to that number? I mean, could you work with us on the down? As an investors, we'd have to be able to cash flow it. So could you work with us on the monthly payment? And that's when I get into the numbers. You're probably not going to be able to close them even on that call, but you're going to get really close. Okay. Then you're going to do a pull away, or you're going to say, okay, hey, next time when we talk, would there be anything that would this even make sense for you? Like if I spend a bunch of my team's time and our underwriters' time to structure this for you and put it in writing, I mean, is this even something that you'd want to move forward with? Would there be any other person that might object or might need to be included in this conversation? And then I'm scheduled, okay, no, or yes, I'm handling that objection. If it's a no, perfect. Let's schedule a time to put pen to paper here. I'll draft everything up and we'll go over it with you. Because you guys do virtual appointments, right?
Mhm.
Yep. Okay, I'll schedule a time to go over it with you with the document, and we'll get everything moving forward. Great. So we're talking probably 4 or 5
Yeah,
calls there.
okay.
Now these are for all your leads that like cash didn't work.
Right.
That you were gonna throw away or just put on long-term follow-up or something like that, right?
Yeah, we got our first, this is so beautiful because we got our first seller finance deal. We assigned it. It was 12 units.
Nice.
It's like a conglomeration of seller finance and cash for one building, but we're doing 160K assignment fee on our first one, and it was beautiful with structure. Fernando, it's Fernando's deal, so
Holy moly. Woo! I wish I
Good
had a
job.
bell ring. Holy crap.
yeah,
That's
And
great,
just
man.
let's get Fernando back on the phones, man.
yeah.
Nice. Well done.
Ryan, so as far as the agreements, use the same agreements for seller finance and sub two. And it might be a dumb question, but obviously in the wholesale, we need the and/or signs unless we're gonna double close on it. So is there any like huge, small little nuggets that must be included on the seller finance? Or is this pretty straightforward?
Yeah, so this is going to depend on your state. I know people that use creative contracts that are like 20 pages long, and it feels safer for them to do that. But to be totally honest, we use the exact same purchase agreement. We just have a section at the very end that's a paragraph. And if it goes creative, we just write in what the terms are. The
Okay.
down payment
That's what I
to
was
the seller's this, right? Like all the terms, and then we just send it to the title company and they tell us, they review it and they tell us like, hey, can you clarify whatever if it doesn't make sense?
Cool.
Yep. But if you're in California, you might want to use a more sturdy document. I don't know. The thing about attorneys, man, is everyone is going to tell you different, and they're not going to give you a straight up answer because they get billed hourly. So they're just going to milk you for that.
Yeah, good point. Yeah,
I
I don't
can-
know. We'll probably stick to the simple stuff.
Yeah, I think I have a creative contract that long one I can send you guys, and then anyone on this call can have it. But I can send you guys a creative contract and then the normal one we use too.
Cool. That'd be sweet. I appreciate it.
Yeah. Cool, guys. Anyone else have any questions? I know I went through a lot of high level stuff. So any final thoughts or questions?
Well, thanks a lot, Ryan.
Yeah,
you
absolutely,
bet.
guys.
I'll
Thank
see
you
you on
for
the next one.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
And we
Yep,
really
yep.
like your London accents on your Instagram. Keep doing those.
You don't have to lie. You don't have to.
I love them, especially in the streets with, after the workout.
Well, hey, everyone on this call, you guys have my email. If you need any help with anything or have a question, just shoot me a message. All right, guys.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Cheerio. Have a good one.
North
Thank
London is
you.
red.